Well, as you know, we have we're on the second day of Beard Gate, meaning that I shaved my beard. The people have spoken.
Dear God, what
Yes.
has happened with our world?
Yes, it's a shame, but I can tell you that one person said that she did not like the beard.
Really?
And she said it took away from her enjoyment of the podcast.
Yeah.
And therefore, based on the population of one, compared to everyone else that said that they love the beard, I decided to shave the beard.
Your daughter?
No.
No?
Some very nice person that I don't know her name.
Oh, wow.
She's just a fan of the podcast.
I thought it actually was your just wife. That's
No.
why
My wife loves the beard.
Yeah.
So, but what it goes to show is that I just wanted the beard off, and I wanted any excuse to shave the beard.
Was it the itchy, or was it
The
taking
itchy.
longer to dry
The
after
itchy.
the shower?
I also felt like a homeless guy.
Yeah.
I mean, I walk in the room and like everyone must be thinking that I'm a homeless guy. So I didn't like it.
Or that,
and
like,
it's a multicolored beard too. It's got the gray, it's got the brown, it's got the black.
it's got.
Well, I don't know why it grew out the way that it did, but there you go.
Yeah.
It just seems very. I don't know. It seems very vain to me. Even talking about it now seems very vain. I'm done with this conversation. I'm done.
Done with the beard. Yeah.
I will say that it's good to be back with my regular routine here, and I just enjoy it. That's the way it is. So
That was a funny thing. I saw the jacket, and I was like, "Oh, that's a good jacket." I didn't realize the beard.
Yes.
It was the jacket. I attributed to the jacket, which you have worn before. So I was wondering, like, why is it? It's a beard. You just looked a little more professional, and I couldn't place it because I'm a guy.
Yes. Well, there are quite a few little things going on here these days. Before we talk about our theme, which is, I think, a fascinating theme. It's about identity. But I did recently a poll.
Yeah.
And I did it through SurveyMonkey. It's actually very good. And I wanted to find out whether atheists have a true sense of morality, and for that matter, a sense of good and evil. What would they do under certain circumstances? For example, would they steal from a store if they figured, well, the store has a lot of money anyway, especially the big box stores and such. Right. Would they feel comfortable with that? Did they rationalize that?
Yeah.
And wouldn't you know that it turns out that those who describe themselves as atheists, those who do not at all believe in a God of any kind,
Yeah.
they don't necessarily believe in morality. Yeah, it's a shockaroo.
Really?
Yeah. They don't believe in good and evil. No, they don't.
But there's no way they would be more open to criminal behavior, is there?
Well, you would be surprised. They are more open to criminal behavior and dishonest behavior, generally speaking. I talked about cheating on tests and things like that. And by and large, I'm not saying that every single atheist, but every atheist wants to consider himself to be a very upright citizen.
Right.
I'm a good person. I'm a moral person. But they don't actually think why they even should be a moral person.
Right.
If you really do not believe in God, then there is no reason for morality. There is no morality.
Yeah.
Other than your belief to yourself that it's necessary for the functioning of civilization.
Right.
Which is what I used to think.
Yeah.
When I was an atheist, I got to tell you, looking back now, I really was an honest atheist. I said, okay, I'll play by the rules.
Right.
Because I don't want to get arrested. Sure.
Yeah.
But if there's no morality, then I can, and if I can get away with it, I'll get away with it.
Right.
Now, you can never assure yourself fully that you'll be getting away with it.
Right.
But let's say you could, and you're really an atheist. You really believe there's no God out there. There really is no morality. And you see an opportunity to steal from your employer or to steal cash from the cash register because nobody's watching, there's no cameras, whatever it is, no police in sight. Nobody will ever be able to track you. Why not?
Yeah.
I don't get it. Why not?
Right.
Don't say that it's because it's not the right thing to do. Well, what makes it not the right thing to do?
Yeah, based on what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they can never really answer that question. They dance around it. They say it's necessary for the functioning of society. But what if you don't feel that need?
Right.
Well, everyone should feel that need. Okay, fine. I get that. But if you believe that you have a role in society and for the advancement of civilization, then why do you not believe, for example, person X, in having any kids?
Yeah.
Because if everyone acted the way you did in not having kids, then we very soon would not have a population to speak of at all.
Right.
To even ponder the idea of whether there's a God, there would be no humans.
Right.
So when they say that they're doing it because they see themselves as part of a collective whole, well, okay, but you act differently when it comes to having kids. That I don't understand.
Yeah.
See, I mean, I do understand. I do know why, but that's the inconsistency that they live with themselves. I think they're always hypocritical, whether they realize it or not. Anyway, the survey proved exactly what I thought. It's
Wow.
what does Dennis Prager say? Surveys either prove what you already know or they're nonsense. And there's something true to that, right?
Yeah.
So, not surprisingly, a lot of atheists still thought that they were moral or believed in morality.
Yeah.
But for example, I forget the exact numbers, but roughly about 50% of the people who consider themselves atheists thought that they were moral and believed in morality, and the 50% didn't.
Yeah.
Right? Whereas those who did believe in God, like 99% of them, believed in morality.
Right.
And only 1% didn't. I don't know why they didn't, but that's another story. It's a very big shift,
Right.
and not a surprising shift. So all these things. Now, the only one question was kind of a bit of surprise.
Yeah.
The question was, if you have a handicap parking permit,
Right.
and you're not handicapped,
Right.
would you? If someone gave it to you, so you can just use it for your parking purposes,
Right.
let's say at a crowded concert or whatever, would you use it?
Right.
And I would not.
No.
I think it's wrong. And surprisingly, about the same amount of people who do believe in God said that, they would use it.
Whoa.
Which is, it's an outlier, but that was a funny result. That was the one thing that kind of stuck out, like, oh, that's different.
Yeah.
But everything else in terms of stealing from a store,
Yeah.
cheating on a test, all that, all the answers were exactly as you would expect. Atheists were more likely to say, yeah, that's cool to cheat on a test because they're biased. They have the rationalization.
Right.
But when it comes to that one thing, the handicap parking spot, I thought for sure that people would also say, no, I wouldn't use that. But they would. It's more or less, it's about the same.
Or it's funny, actually, like I have a brother who has that parking placard. And it's my stepbrother. And my stepmom would never, ever use it if he's not there. And she's really strident about that. And I've known people who've had parents or relatives who've had that placard, and when they use it when they drive it,
Yeah.
and it is sacred that you don't do it because they understand I want to have a parking spot when I'm with the handicapped person
Yes.
to do it. So there's no way. So it's actually kind of being involved in that where I wouldn't just because my stepmom's so strident. I'm like, no, I'm not. She's Sicilian. I'm not messing with that. But could be the control. Like, do you have someone in your life who's handicapped? Yes or no, and then
I was offered more than a couple times to take a handicap parking spot
Yeah.
for, I think it was a concert. That's why the idea of a concert came
Right.
through. And I said, no, that's not cool.
No.
I mean, if you're the one, if you're with me in the car and you need it, then
Right.
yes, that's fine.
Yeah.
But just to give it to me so that I could get an easier parking spot, that ain't cool.
No.
So,
Yeah. Which actually, go atheist. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot easier when
Yeah.
you're not an atheist. You
Yeah.
have a sense of it's just the world. It makes more sense. The world is more pleasant. You're not racked with the guilt that overwhelmingly takes over.
Yeah.
There are a whole bunch of reasons just to absorb God in your life. It's so basic, and people just want the reason why they don't believe in God is because they just don't want the accountability. That is the bottom line. They
Yeah.
want to get away with stuff. They don't want to think things through. They don't want to ask questions, and so they have a very shallow life. At the end of the day, you are going to have a super shallow life if you do not have God in your life. That's it. Period. You cannot have the enriched life that somebody who has God in his life. Now, for the people who are yelling now at the podcast or the YouTube video, I can tell you, you really ought to think this through.
Yeah.
It's true. The people who have been the most creative, we talked about this recently, the most creative people are the ones that have been believers in God.
Yes.
And I'm talking not just about artists and musicians and such. They're also scientists.
Yeah.
When people talk about there's God versus science, well, guess what? The major discoveries in science and innovation have been from those who believe in God fiercely.
Yeah.
That includes Gregory Mendel, it includes Georges Lemaitre, who discovered the Big Bang, Newton, Copernicus, even Galileo. He was no atheist. He believed in God quite fiercely.
Yeah.
Just every single one. There was like one scientist that was a serious scientist, but I don't think he actually developed any new ideas. And that was Andrei Sakharov, a Russian dissident. He was a avowed atheist. He was a nuclear physicist. He was an incredible physicist, but nevertheless, that's one.
Right.
When you look over the 3,000-year history, everyone was religious. Now, the answer that the atheists will say, well, that's because everyone was a believer. Everyone belonged to the church one way or the other. No.
Yeah.
It's just not true. So you would expect then, you would see a lot more atheists' inventions and discoveries and scientific contributions in the 20th century because atheism was a very big deal already at that time. Nope.
Yeah.
It still turns out to be that the very Christian, very Jewish scientists were the ones who were making all the new advances.
If you look at North Korea, if you look at China, if you look at the Soviet Union, not Russia presently, but the Soviet Union, all atheists, avowed atheists, really not that many discoveries. Like, what is that one video game, Tetris, I think, was made by a communist who's ostensibly an atheist. And he might not have been able to be open about his religion, but like, okay, that's the one.
Yeah, you got to give it to them. Let's assume that he's an atheist.
Yeah.
Tetris?
Yeah.
Versus the discovery of the Big Bang?
Yeah.
Really? I mean, there's no comparison, obviously.
No.
So at the end of the day, go God, join God's team, and I think you'll discover that your brain will be on fire.
Yeah.
That's the thing that I really wish I could impart upon the atheist. Everything that you think about a believer is upside down.
Right.
Everything.
Yeah.
You really ought to talk to a believer. They are not numbing their brains.
Right.
They are not closing their eyes, closing their ears, closing their mouths like that famous three-monkey thing.
Yeah.
No, on the contrary, there's so much more discovery going on in their heads and curiosity at the end of the day. It's unbelievable. And I'll kind of prove it to you in a sense. What's the point of discovery?
Right.
If you're an atheist?
There's
why would you care about improving the world?
Right.
What's the point?
Or it would be nice to improve the world because you get adulation and you get like more money, but you have to make sacrifices.
Yeah.
And you have to make sacrifices based on faith.
Yeah.
Belief that you will get somewhere to discover that.
That too. But
yeah,
take it from the standpoint of somebody who wants to make the world a better place.
Right.
If you really believe that there's no God and all that matters is what is here and now, and there is nothing in the hereafter.
Yeah.
No accountability for that matter. Why would you do anything?
Right.
Seriously, why would you have kids?
Yeah.
Why would you invent anything?
Yeah.
For what? So you could be remembered 100 years from now?
Yeah.
What do you care? You're going to be nothing.
Right.
You won't be able to appreciate it. You don't have a sense of the reason why these people do these amazing inventions and discoveries is because they feel like they are discovering God's universe, what God wants them to discover.
Right.
It is their obligation to discover God's works. If you don't have God in your life, there is no sense of that obligation. So why do anything? Why not just avail yourself of all the goodies that the world has to offer?
Yeah.
And let all the other suckers be the ones working so hard to make all these great inventions, whether it's the car, the airplane, air conditioning, and so on. Let them discover all these things. I'm just going to enjoy it while I'm here. I'm here for the ride.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. When you go to Disneyland, you don't expect to build, a space mountain and then ride it. Right? You just say, I'm here for the ride.
Yeah.
And then when I leave, it's gone.
Yeah.
That's the way an atheist should and in reality does view Earth.
Right.
I'm here here I am. I'm just going to have a lot of sex, have a lot of money, a lot of booze,
Yeah.
a lot of drugs maybe, just travel a lot, eat a lot,
Yeah.
and then I die.
Yeah.
And if I happen to have use up all of my money by the time I die, so much the better for me.
Right.
Tell me why that is wrong from the
Right.
atheist point of view. Because that's, first of all, before you tell me that you know what an atheist thinks,
Yeah.
I know how an atheist thinks. That's exactly how an honest atheist should think. There is nothing in the future for you.
Right.
So I've asked many atheists, why do you have kids? We talked about this before. Why do you have kids?
Yeah.
And it blows my mind that nobody thinks about asking that question
Yeah.
to themselves at the very least. And they look at each other like, yeah, why should I have kids?
Right.
That's why they only have one kid. And a lot of times, couples are not having kids at all. Surprise, surprise, we're having a population crisis now.
Yeah.
But but those who do answer the question, the only answer they have is, well, I want someone to be able to pass on my values.
Right.
Okay, but, well, what values?
Yeah.
And we talked about this before. I find it funny. You don't care. I mean, and who's to say that these kids will actually pass on your values?
Yeah.
They might hate you.
Right.
Anyway.
Yeah.
I'm going to move on because I know we talked about this before.
Yeah.
So our theme today is identity.
Yeah.
And more importantly, about shame. So the Democrats have definitely become a party of no shame.
Yeah. Oh my God.
If you were to ask them a question, is there anything that you feel that is universally shameful?
Right.
So for me, there are many things. To call the idea of pedophilia, okay?
Yeah.
That's truly shameful. If somebody were to engage in pedophilia, I would hope that person would feel tremendous shame.
Yeah.
Likewise, if he can't control his libido, likewise, and he's, there was the story, I don't want to get into the details, of the news reporter who was caught in entertaining himself on Zoom.
Oh,
Remember?
yeah, the CNN guy. Yeah.
Yeah, CNN guy, that's right.
Yeah.
I would imagine he feels shame for that. Not just embarrassment, but shame.
Yeah.
And likewise, if you're caught with a prostitute, likewise, if you reveal that you have a gambling addiction, there's so many things that are shameful. What is it among the left that they would say, yeah, that's shameful? Here's one thing that is shameful,
Yeah.
and it's an identity issue. The old days, in fact, I think even today, what is the greatest insult you can give a man?
That he's not a man.
Yes?
Yeah.
Or that he's like a woman,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like I remember this scene in this movie, I forget what it is, Forgetting Sarah Marshall, I think it was.
Yeah.
And there's a scene where the receptionist lady, who is played by this very beautiful woman actress, anyway, she's kind of like flirting around with this one guy, and she's encouraging him to jump off of this cliff, like she just jumped off of this cliff into the water. And he hesitates, and she says, "Come on, I can see your vagina from here." It's so funny, right? Even though she herself is a woman.
Right.
But she was mocking his manhood.
Right.
Right, which guys are a little tougher in that department.
Yeah.
But that's the greatest insult you could throw to a man, is
Right.
that he's like a woman.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Likewise, if you tell a woman that she's like a man,
Yeah.
that's a tremendous insult.
Yeah.
And conversely, the highest compliment you could give, or one of the highest compliments you can give to a man, is, "You are very masculine."
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Women love masculine men, but to hear that, especially from a woman, "You are very masculine." That's great. And then you tell a woman, you're very feminine.
Yeah.
They love that.
Right.
So, but now that's all been blurred.
Yeah.
We live in a time of no shame.
Yeah.
And so for a man to dress up as a woman, to me, that would be so shameful, because you're basically saying, think of me as a woman.
Right.
I want you to call me very feminine. And in fact, I'll like it if you call me feminine.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure that's not according to the Bible. I'm pretty sure there's some verses about that, like, dress like a man.
You think?
Yeah.
Yeah. So here is a topic that I saw recently on Facebook. It's very interesting.
Yeah.
I'd love you to hear this because it really kind of elucidates what we're talking about.
Yeah.
So there's a trans man, meaning a man who thinks he's a woman.
Yeah.
And he is going on doing a Facebook meme or a whatever meme, Twitter meme.
Yeah.
So surprised why straight men won't date him. Right? So I'm going to play it for you. Take a listen.
This video is for straight men and straight men only. I'm sorry, but how in the world could you not like me? Yes, I'm a trans woman, I'm a doll. Like, what is so different about dating me than a cis woman? I can do everything that she can.
Nope.
There's so many things wrong about this.
Not at all.
It's such a mystery to
Yeah.
him. We don't want you because A, you have a penis.
Yep.
Okay. And even if you didn't, even if you had the full on surgery, it's not the same.
Not the
It's
same.
just
No.
nowhere close. And not only that, if we want kids, you're not going to be able to produce kids.
Yeah.
You're not a woman.
Yeah.
I mean, I wrote in response to this, here's why. Because you have XY chromosomes.
Yeah.
That's why.
Yeah.
Okay. That's enough for me not to want to date you.
You're a guy.
And I'm and there it turns out that about 4 billion people on the planet are actual women.
Right.
Why would I choose you over the actual woman?
Right.
It just goes to show how they just can't conceptualize the idea.
Yeah.
And you can hear it. I believe that he is truly confused. Like, why? Why won't you date me?
Right.
He really must have thought that by dressing up as a woman, and by the way, he among trans men,
Yeah.
this man could pass
Right.
as a woman. I mean, I assume there's a lot of makeup going on there.
Yeah.
And you're only seeing the head and the neck, and there's a necklace there.
Yeah.
He's trying to really go for that true feminine look.
Right.
And to some extent, he succeeds. But I guess if you like transgender men, you would find him attractive.
Yeah. If you're into men.
If you're into men,
Yeah.
that's the guy for you. But
Yeah.
but she's asking about straight men. And just knowing that you are not a man, that you are a man in reality,
Yeah.
is enough to say no. Well, why
Right.
would I go for the fake?
Yeah.
When I'd go for the real? As it turns out, there's a lot of pretty women out there.
Right.
And attractive. I like the feminine.
Yeah.
So, and his thinking is, well, I can do anything that a cisgender woman would do.
Something. Yeah. Cis woman or something.
A cis woman,
Yeah.
like, that's what you think is at play here? Whether or not you can perform the same sexual acts? Really? That's it?
And do you think it's constrained just to, and it probably is, just to certain physical acts?
Yeah.
Like when I think of a woman, you could literally bear and then feed a child.
Yes.
Like that's magical. That's a miracle. You can, you have a womb. You have.
Well, it's interesting because it goes to the issue of attraction.
Right.
Okay, so when I see a pretty woman, I'm like, my wife is beautiful, right?
Yeah.
I'm attracted to her not because she has breasts
Right.
and a vagina.
Yeah.
That's not what I go for, or a very cool waistline or whatever it is.
Right.
I'm attracted to her because she's feminine.
Right.
The whole woman thing
Yeah.
is attractive to me.
Yeah.
And her particular womanhood, that's what I'm attracted to.
Right.
But it's not the physical specific attributes that make me say, okay, go for it.
Right.
Because if that were the case,
Yeah.
then you can make a robot
Right.
and say, well, I'm just as attracted to this robot as a sex machine, basically, as I am to an actual human being.
Yeah.
But really, is this person, this man,
Yeah.
does he think that that's what attraction is? He's made it so base that he's taken the humanity out of it.
Right.
He's taken the femininity out of
100%.
sexuality, right?
Yeah.
And that's what's missing.
Or it's such a guy way of seeing it. Like a guy's like, okay, how do I attract a woman? Gonna get a good body, good car, good house, good job. Boom, women's gonna be there. I'm just knock that out. A woman, she's gonna have a conversation with her friend for an hour and a half why her boyfriend chose the spaghetti parmesan over the spaghetti alfredo or whatever like
exactly.
that. That's what a woman's gonna do. How does she attract? It's so much different from the way we think. And he's thinking like a guy. He's like, yeah, I got this physical attribute. I can do this act. Yeah, why don't guys like it? Because that's not how women think in any way.
This is not about the sexual act.
Yeah, you're thinking like a guy.
That's so interesting.
That is hilarious.
You know, look, the reality is, and in a way, sometimes these crazy issues that come out in social agendas like this really kind of bring out the reason why we are attracted to women. Before the whole transgender stuff, before it was when people actually made fun of transvestites and people who were identify themselves. I'm not saying that we should go out and make fun of them. So let me make that clear. I feel sorry for them.
Yeah.
You should be very comfortable with what God gave you.
Yeah.
But before in those days, you just were attracted because you were attracted. You didn't overthink it.
Right.
It's kind of like walking. You don't think about, well, now I've put my right foot forward. Now I guess I should put my left foot forward. And now I guess I should put my right foot forward again.
Right.
It's a natural instinct.
Yeah.
And you're walking. You don't overthink it. And likewise, when in the olden days, which is about 10, 15 years ago, when you saw a woman and you were attracted to her, and you didn't overthink it.
No.
You just said, okay, well, she's a woman, and I like her feminine way, and I like her smile, and she seems to be, respecting herself, and she seems to have a nice figure, and I like the smoothness of her face, her skin. Great.
Yeah.
Okay. I just feel it. Yeah. I feel attracted to her, and suddenly this schmuck thinks he's got it all figured out, and but more importantly, he's just so flummoxed. He just doesn't understand. Why won't you men date me?
Yeah.
How outrageous this is.
Yeah.
And he's not the only one.
No.
There have been many bills that presented in Congress. Not that they passed, by the way. But
date the trans man.
Yes. You are to be attracted to trans people in the same way that you would somebody who is not trans.
That is crazy.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
It really is crazy.
That's shameless. Yeah.
So shame is an interesting thing. It used to be the greatest insult, and it's no longer. I think there's no shame at all for even thinking, for example. And this is going back to the shame aspect of the idea of thinking that you can participate in women's sports, a man participating in it, and not feeling any shame about that.
Yeah.
If you were to say 20 years ago, I think I have a better shot playing with on the girls' team than the boys' team, they would say, what a loser you are.
Right.
But they actually go in thinking that they will be not only allowed, but that they will be admired for doing this. Yeah. Like some sort of breaking some sort of barrier. Yeah. Really? That's a barrier break for you? But it's no different than an adult, Tom Brady playing, against, a fourth grader boys team.
Yeah.
And then claiming expecting accolades for that when he, does amazing plays and scores a touchdown through being a quarterback there.
Right.
There's no difference.
No.
And we'd be ashamed of him.
Right.
Anyway, I think there was some, where was it? There was some guy in, I think it was volleyball or something, or no, it was track and field in Oregon. And he ran and he won this race, not surprisingly. Yeah. And the audience boos him.
Nice.
Thankfully.
Yeah.
And that's the shame.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's boo to this guy, to you schmuck.
Yeah.
Who now think that we're going to be impressed with it. Did you really think we're going to applaud for you?
Yeah.
And he looked around like, wow, what's happening? I don't understand that.
Yeah.
That's the shame culture, and we need it back.
Yeah.
There has to be some degree of shame. And you can't have accolades without shame.
Yeah.
Period. End of story.
Yeah.
And taking all the shame has been very hurtful to society.
Yeah, we need some constriction. And when they say, okay, there's no God, so that's not going to constrain me, and then society can't even judge me. And that was the thing. Don't judge me. How dare you judge? Well,
yeah.
No, we should judge.
Yeah.
You're a guy competing against 14-year-old girls. I'm sorry. We should judge you.
Well, the shame continues beyond transgenderism, too.
Yeah.
For example, supporting illegal MS-13 gang members right into the country and somehow thinking that there's no shame about what he's done, these terrible crimes.
But they didn't fly over to like El Salvador to try to have margaritas and save them, did
That's
they?
right.
That
No,
never
not
happened.
at all. Or they're enforcing laws against stealing. Like the idea, I mean, it would be shameful.
Yeah.
Now, at least in California still, if you steal under $950, I don't know if the laws are still in the books, but let's pretend it still is.
Yeah.
The idea is that that there's no shame in stealing that.
Right.
I stole $900 worth of goods. I'm allowed to do that. In fact, I'm being encouraged to do that, and there's no shame associated with that.
Yeah.
And that's just a question of law enforcement.
Yeah.
But there's even this sense that it's okay to do that.
Or even just bringing that out where if you really believe in God, and you should, God's judgment, you're not supposed to steal.
Yeah.
Making it easy, encouraging, subsidized people saying, oh, no, you can steal. God says you can't. That is, you're hurting their soul. You're hurting who they are on this earth and their relationship with God when you really take them away from him.
In other words, you're doing them no favors.
No.
You're taking God away. Anyway, so I forgot to play this clip.
Yeah.
Talking about the idea of how shameful it is for a man to be called a woman,
Yeah.
or feminine for that matter, and vice versa.
Yeah.
Right? So nothing elucidates this point better than a great small clip from the movie Aliens, from I think in 1986 or something.
Yeah, with the great Bill Paxton.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's right.
God, I love him.
So
Yeah.
and he's in the scene actually.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So they're kind of there's this woman, I forget her name, the character's name, Vasquez. That's what it is.
Yeah.
And the Bill Paxton character approaches her because she's always doing pull-ups and doing. She's a tough chick, and so he approaches her while she's doing pull-ups, and just take a listen.
Hey, Vasquez, have you ever been mistaken for a man?
No. Have you?
Oh, Vasquez. You're just too bad.
Exactly right. So that's a perfect example, right, where she turns it on him, saying, "Has everyone mistaken you for a man?"
Yeah.
This is awesome.
Yeah.
So it was funny. It's clever. She wants to be a woman. She loves being a woman, and she just turned it right on him, saying, "Everyone mistaken you for a man." Like she assumed that he was a girl.
Yeah.
It's very cute.
Oh, it's awesome. When movies were good.
That
man.
was really good.
Yeah.
Yeah. And making fun of these situations was part of, I mean, we kind of enforced the shame culture.
Yeah.
A lot of stories are about shame.
Yeah.
When you think about it, like the bad guys get caught, the murderer or the thief or the conniver or the guy that tried to steal the girlfriend or whatever it is, they get caught and the shame is turned on them and justice prevails by him going to jail.
Yeah.
And that doesn't show up as much in reality anymore.
No.
And that's why movies like that are so appealing to us. It kind of plays into that shame to some extent, and the way that society expects. It tells us what the expectations are.
Right.
I think it's fair.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
All right. A lot of great things. Now, speaking about transgenderism, have you noticed that things have really changed in that world, that people are no longer really accepting this whole he-she thing? People are able to say, I'm not going to play that game.
Right.
I'm not going to say they for you. I'm not going to say he, she, it, z, and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And I have to tell you, I'm feeling this sense of tremendous relief of not having to use all these damn pronouns.
Yeah.
It's this relief is the fair statement for it.
Yeah.
Especially to the parents out there.
All right.
We're just done with it.
Yeah.
Constantly walking on eggshells, and that's exactly what they wanted us to do.
Right.
But now, the good guys have won. We're back to some degree of distinctions. Some.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean that we're trying to be out there trying to make fun of them.
Right.
Again, like I said, it's just trying to understand the distinction. You got a smirk on your face. You want to say something.
No, I just love the fact that that whole thing is just so silly, and we're taking back language to be clear. You know, because and one of the greatest things about it was like, like where you could put political. Oh, yeah, my pronoun is Trump for president, or my pronouns are like pro God, pro gun, pro America.
Yes,
and you can actually be open about it, and that's really undercut it. Yeah. And I think that we are the rebellion still, and that oh man, just forcing it on us was just.
I think they were tone deaf as to the electorate and the demography out there.
Yeah.
Among the demographic indicators now is that Gen Z is finding religion.
Nice.
That's the claim from a piece at Vox, and that's no conservative outlet, as you know. But there's no question that our younger generation is finding hedonistic, secular agnosticism less than satisfying.
Nice.
This is according to Vox. So sometime around or after the outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic, young Americans began to find, or at least retain, religious belief at higher rates than previous generations.
Nice.
This is not inconsistent with what we said before, that Gen Z is more conservative.
Yeah.
But this is more on the religious side, which often goes hand in hand. I know that. The numbers tell this story quite clearly. While the share of nones, that's N-O-N-E-S, meaning they have no connection to religion, jumped by about 40% from 2008 to 2013, the rise began to slow between 2013 and 2018. This is from The Economist. On average, each successive birth cohort has been 10% less Christian than its predecessors. Okay, but new data from the Pew Research Center shows that Gen Z is about as religious as older peers.
Nice.
If Americans born between 2000 and 2006, a cohort at the heart of Gen Z, followed their predecessors, about 41% would identify as Christian. Instead, Pew's data shows that 46% identify as Christian.
Nice.
That's a big jump. That's statistically very significant.
Yeah.
So that's all good news. And I think part of the reason why is that these are children of religious families.
Yeah.
Who have, shakaru, many more kids than non-religious families do.
Yeah.
So, look, the bottom line is if you see a family of three or more, you generally assume that that's a religious family.
100%.
Whether it's Jewish, Mormon, Catholic, whatever, that's what's happening there. If you see a family that only has one kid, by and large, sometimes people can't have more than one kid or two kids, fine.
Right.
But by and large, you're assuming that they're not that religious.
Yeah.
They may have a little, maybe they go to church once a month.
Right.
But they don't really have true faith in God. So that's my take on it, and I'm sticking to it.
Or it's amazing where you have people like Ben Shapiro, who heroically embrace religion. Charlie Kirk also heroically embrace religion. And the rebels are the conservatives. And the rebels are bringing religion as a foundation for their conservatism, almost as if the religion is first and the conservatism is the natural outgrowth of it. And it's so wonderful to see younger and younger people being passionate about what matters. Because we haven't been for so long, but the media excluded people for so long, and so many people and so many more people are being excluded from the media that everybody is saying, hey, this isn't for me. And thank God, because it's horrifying. And maybe religion is. Wow,
I like that. I like the way you put it. It's very true. More interesting tidbits for the time being. So you may have heard that Spain and Portugal have recently had a blackout.
Wait, I thought they were going for like natural sources of power, not oil. So
yes.
how could there be a blackout?
Yes,
they were
exactly
green.
Right.
Like,
well, you got ahead of this story, and I like it.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. It's very funny. No, you pointed it out.
Yeah.
Let's see. Spain experienced a nationwide power outage 1 week, just 1 week after reaching 100% green energy, according to them.
It was 1 week after doing 100%?
Yes.
I wonder if I didn't realize
1
that.
week. So Hot Air said, "Come enjoy the ironic videos," and you see all these people. One of the videos I saw, and you don't. There's no words, so I'm not going to play it. But you see these guys from 2 years ago, blowing up an implosion. You know, a planned implosion, one of those things, of a nuclear power facility, and they're blowing it up. Never mind that nuclear power is the most green energy you could possibly get.
Clean, efficient.
But
yeah.
they still felt very good about themselves. So they blew that up, and they're going thumbs up. They're so excited. It's Spanish.
Yeah.
But there they are now, having total blackouts. It's very cute. I love it.
That is just, or also, like, at the same time, England is blacking out the sun, and then they're like, I'm sure they're using solar at some point. And it's like, wait, how, the blacking out the sun, and we're using solar.
Yeah. How do you work that out?
Yeah.
It's so complicated. So here's a question for you. Are these blackouts caused by private organizations or socialist governments? Quick. You must answer correctly, or you will be thrown off this cliff into the sea of sharks. Go.
Everything bad comes from socialist governments.
Yes.
Or even just governments.
There's
let's be
nothing
honest.
that
Yeah.
government does well as an enterprise.
No.
At best, even the military, as much as we need government for the military, I accept that. It's not necessarily efficient. And even then, they have to use private contractors all the time to build the Boeing, to build the F-35s and so on,
Right.
tanks, whatever. You think government builds those things? No, they contract those out.
Right.
But the planning, I mean, the waste in government is it's breathtaking.
Yeah.
Afghanistan, what happened, the retreat of Afghanistan
Oh, God.
is emblematic. It's not an exception
No.
to the efficiency of government. It's emblematic of the inefficiency of government.
Yeah.
So that's anyway. I just thought it was a really funny story. The whole thing. I feel bad for the people, but this is what happens when you leave it to the government, and they just simply they're so shocked that things don't work out well.
Man.
Now, speaking of quality control and green and everything else, well, it may seem that there's bad news.
Yeah.
For California, generally speaking, and it's true.
Yeah.
People are fleeing California in record numbers.
Yeah.
But there is good news about California. California now have 5 cities comprising 5 of the top 10 most air polluted and smog filled areas in America.
Wait, what? Oh
yeah,
my God.
isn't that
wow.
So California, you can be proud.
Wow.
You enjoy 5 of the most smoggy, most dirty air in America.
Like LA, I could definitely see, but like, what are the others?
Oh, I forget. There's there's Bakersfield. Something. There's
Bakersfield. Wow.
Yeah, there's these corridors that are really bad.
Oh man.
Yeah, you'd be surprised. Sacramento was one of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, Sacramento's horrible.
It's terrible.
It's
So,
which is our capital.
but 5 out of 10. Hey, that's pretty sweet. I say. That's you gotta be really proud as a California.
Yeah. Or when people say
We always give bad news about California, but damn it, that's pretty good news.
Yeah, politicians lie and they say we care about the environment, and then 5 of the worst polluted cities are in California. They say they care about homeless. Nope, there's going to be more. It's oh, man.
Speaking about crazy things, okay, the inverted world, right? Take a listen as to this particular thing, okay?
Vigil in Santa Ana turned violent Sunday as protesters demanding justice took matters into their own hands. Emotions were already high as people mourned pets allegedly killed by a man police are calling a serial cat killer.
Fox 11's Christy Fajardo joins us now live from Santa Ana with what police are saying about this vigil. Christy?
Yeah, Susan and Alex, police actually had to go in and disperse the crowd because it got that ugly. And the department is now saying that the accused cat killer is out on bail, but they know exactly where he is and that he's not in that neighborhood. Still yesterday, protesters targeted a home they believed was harboring him.
A violent vigil Sunday in Santa Ana raising questions about safety. We saw activists break the same window where minutes earlier a young face had peered out.
Oh, let's party!
Some pushed their way onto the property. And look closely. This man is pepper spraying or macing the residents who are trying to close the gate. Then he does it again. The activists targeted the home they believe to belong to a relative of accused cat serial.
Okay, so you get the principle here.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you're not seeing the video here, I'm telling you that this is a very large crowd.
Yep.
And they are really acting wild.
Yep.
All right. And they're pepper spraying. This one person trying to close the gate. It's not even the house of the alleged cat killer.
Yeah.
Okay. So, as you know, I'm vegan.
Yeah.
I love animals, but I do it mostly for my health. It's not, that's the nature of my vegan choices. But I really wish that they would have this kind of passion when it comes to protesting child molesters and traffickers.
Yeah.
Right? But not so much.
Yeah.
It's really interesting. They were able to gather a crowd like that for a serial cat killer.
Yeah.
Guy is obviously crazy, wants to kill cats, but people really got animated about this. But if it were children, they don't get animated.
Yeah.
I mean, I would be the pepper spraying guy if I caught some guy trying to molest any child.
Oh, yeah.
Let alone my own children.
Yeah.
But these guys have 10 times more passion.
Yeah.
For the cause of cats,
Right.
than the cause of children.
Yeah.
That's I'm saying the obvious, right? I mean, they're not doing that when it comes to children or to the plight of girls. Or
No.
I mean, why don't they have this sort of madness, this sort of group anger when it comes to boys participating in girls' sports?
Right.
Or when that teacher or the administration forced these girls to change in front of a boy.
Yeah.
In the locker room.
Yeah, that one especially.
And they were 13 years old.
Yeah.
Where is that outrage?
Right.
I don't mind the outrage, but at the very least, it should be a lot more for the child molesters, the child
100%,
killers.
yeah.
I mean, you don't see any of that.
Yeah.
That's where we've gone. I think something has gone awry in our culture, much more than just something. A lot of things have gone awry.
Yeah.
But this is emblematic of what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, so we've got 100 days commemorating for the Trump administration. I'm very proud of it.
Yeah.
And they have focused so much on the illegal deportation of the one MS-13 gang member.
Yeah.
I mean, Devin, won't someone please think of the child and drug traffickers?
Yeah.
Who speaks for them?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Who, except from the Democrat Party, talks for them? Yeah.
Yes. It's pathetic.
Oh, man.
Well, maybe it's a way of kind of taking away from the all the attention that Trump is getting for successfully securing the border.
Yeah.
Maybe that's. What do you think? I mean, I think that might be the answer, but the Democrats always get it wrong. So I
Right.
think they always take the issue that is sure to implode the Democratic Party. So I don't even think that they're doing it as a distraction.
Right.
They really think that will resonate with people.
Yeah.
That we need to bring back this monster.
Yeah.
This is who you're fighting for.
Right. For this criminal organization. And they're not nice. They murder, being brutal, being very, very inappropriate with women are part of who they are. That's what they brag about.
Yeah.
And it's not like the Gambino family, like, it's like making money with numbers and stuff like that. Like, it's really just very, very almost satanically bad people.
Yes.
Yeah.
Satanically bad.
Yeah.
And I don't think they realize that they've joined that cult.
Yeah.
They just haven't. All right. On to Israel. Ron Dermer, who is a former ambassador for Israel, is now Netanyahu's longtime aide and confidant. Spoke at the JNS conference held in the Waldorf Astoria in Jerusalem. And he says that within 12 months, the seven-front war that Israel faces will end and Israel will win. You will see many peace agreements. Many countries want to make peace. But the key to this, he says, is victory.
Yeah.
Wonderful. He's exactly right. In his speech, in addition, Mike Huckabee, who joined the fray, stressed that the alliance between the U.S. and Israel is not political, it is spiritual, because the only explanation for the creation, survival, and victory of Israel is the hand of God over this land, meaning Israel.
Yeah.
And so it will always be. We must never doubt that.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mike Huckabee.
Yeah.
He gets it.
Yeah.
He's a good man.
Yeah.
And he's our ambassador to Israel, and couldn't be a better man.
And you can see how good a man he is by his children.
Yes.
Like Trump and like Bob De Niro, where you can, it's like, okay, the good and the bad.
That's right.
Biden's children, too.
Yeah.
Let's see how the children are.
Yeah.
And Mike Huppe's daughter is just an amazing governor.
Yeah.
Trump's kids are just all amazing.
All amazing.
Yeah.
It's a good point.
Yeah.
But really, this is about Ron Dermer's point where, look, it's all about victory.
Yeah.
They know they cannot afford to compromise with Hamas. They can't let the slightest bit of this cancer survive in this body.
Right.
That's really, it's a perfect analogy.
Yeah.
You let it stay. You say, well, we got most of the cancer.
No.
You got 90% of the cancer, so be happy. No, I want all of it because you're only delaying the inevitable.
Right.
This cancer will grow and I will die again.
This cancer's only reason to exist and they are open about it. It's like a cancer who sends out publicity statements
That's right.
about the only thing I want to do is kill my host.
That's right.
The only thing I want to do is make sure that this person dies. That's what Hamas does. They are so clear about it. And then people pretend like, oh no, they're the victims. No.
Sadly, every Palestinian group is the same.
Yeah.
They have varying degrees of violence, but pretty much they all want river to the sea. They want to annihilate Israel. They see that as a good thing. They don't want to work with Israel. There's not a single group in the Palestinian camp that says, we want to work with Israel. We really do want us to see. We appreciate what Israel provides. No, said not one Palestinian faction. Not one.
And
so it will never end. That's the problem. So Israel now has awoken to that fact. October 7 plays in our minds over and over again. It's the PTSD for Israel of what happened on October 7 is so real. I have many relatives, many friends in Israel. I am Israeli myself. It's in our DNA at this point. That's how quick it's become into our DNA. We have even the most liberal, formerly liberal Israelis now, yes, they want the hostages back. There is some discussion of, what should we do in order to get the hostages back? It's a tactical question.
Right.
But the idea of annihilating Hamas, no problem.
Of course.
Nobody's saying we need to work side by side with our Palestinian friends. I'm sure they mean well. If only they understood how great it would be if we worked together as economies together. Then it's a question of education, or a question of whatever, a question of giving them money. No, it's not. There are no naive Israelis anymore.
Right.
How about that?
Yeah. Yeah, if you go into Iran, or if you're an Iranian citizen, you say, you know what, me and my organization, our whole point is to destroy the entire Iranian government. You're not going to last on this earth long.
Yeah.
And why should Israel? Why, when you have people avowed to the destruction of every soul and the entire country, they should not be, they should change. And if they do change, it'd be like, you know what, I thought this. And this is, I learned that people are human. And no, I long ago, wonderful. And I think Israel would show mercy. But you have people who vow to Israel's destruction. I'm sorry, Israel should destroy you. That's karma. That's justice. And the liberals used to think about that.
Yes.
The KKK is bad. Why? Oh, they want black people in slavery. Well, yeah, if they don't want to get along with black people, they should have to be punished for that because we all should get along. And it should work the other way around. If you can't work with specific people, that's your problem, not the specific person's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to talk about this, the judge in Wisconsin.
Wisconsin, oh no,
Wisconsin.
You're going to
Wisconsin,
arrest me. Oh, do not do a good
All right, so this was a Wisconsin judge, Dugan. She's been arrested for harboring and assisting an illegal alien, a violent one at that, whom she was about to sentence or otherwise dispose of judicially in her courtroom. And you know the story already. She decided that when she learned that ICE agents were out there getting ready to arrest him, that they were going to, that she would just show him the back door.
Right.
And that way he could hide away from them. And then she was promptly arrested by the FBI for violating and obstructing the immigration laws, as they were corrected to do. They said that she intentionally misdirected federal immigration agents away from a man that they were trying to take into custody. The judge's arrest on Friday escalates a clash between the Trump administration and the judiciary over the Republican president's sweeping immigration crackdown. The Justice Department has previously signaled it was going to crack down on local officials who thwart federal immigration efforts. Dugan appeared briefly in federal court on Friday before being released. Okay, so it's such an interesting thing. First of all, the idea, people started saying, oh my gosh, they're going after judges now. Isn't that just horrific? Okay, judges don't have immunity.
Yeah.
Okay, the only immunity that they do have is for their actual judicial decisions.
Yeah.
So if you find that, John Smith owes James Doe money in a breach of contract, John Smith cannot sue the judge saying, hey, you had it out for me.
Right.
You can't sue the judge. That's the immunity that they enjoy. They're allowed to have some sort of organization in their own courtroom. But if a judge had immunity, that would mean that she could say, I don't like you, bailiff, and just shoot the bailiff.
Right.
And she not be, held accountable for murder?
Yeah.
Of course not.
No.
So why is it any different when you help somebody evade immigration laws?
Right.
So now she's pled in court, in federal court, that she's innocent. She plans to vigorously defend, as if there's some other way to defend.
Yeah.
You never hear anyone say, "Well, we plan to defend in a lukewarm way."
Yeah.
If we feel like it.
Yeah.
Well, of course they always say vigorously.
Right.
Anyway, putting that aside, why? Why do you want to defend it?
Yeah.
I mean, I understand if you don't like the law as it is, which she clearly doesn't.
Right.
She's against it. Fine. If you view this as civil disobedience, my hat's off to you.
Right.
Okay? But that means you've got to do the time.
Yeah.
Rosa Parks understood that. She didn't pretend she didn't sit in the front of the bus.
Yeah.
She didn't defend herself in that department. She said that this law itself is unconstitutional.
Yeah.
She was protesting the very law itself.
Yeah, and those civil rights activists, they trained in suffering humiliation, having water thrown at them, having ketchup poured over their head. They trained realizing there would be consequences.
Yeah.
They realized it, trained it, and if she isn't comfortable with at least losing her bar license, then she should not have committed those crimes.
She's going to go to jail.
Yeah.
And that's okay with me.
Yeah.
And what I love about this is it sends a signal. It was actually good that this happened because she was arrested right away.
Yeah.
And the administration is sending, the FBI is sending a signal to the rest of the country. If you do anything like this, we will arrest you too.
Yeah.
If we arrested this judge who knows a lot more about the law than you do,
Right.
then don't you even think about it yourself.
100. Yeah, people keep
Which
on
is
saying,
it's a good thing.
yeah, the judges have nobody says that about like some random bureaucrat who works for the state.
Yes.
They absolutely don't have immunity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, but you really got to listen to this one commentator, David Brooks from the New York Times, and he talks about how this judge was perhaps heroic. But take a listen and we'll parse it out.
Well, obviously they're trying to send a note of intimidation, not only to her but to all judges and maybe to all Americans. But I don't yet know the specific details of this case, whether she escorted the guy out the jury door or whether she's let him. So that's all murky. I don't want to comment on this specific case. But especially on the issue of immigration, there are a lot of people who are appalled by what the administration is doing. And there will be times for civil disobedience. And to me, let's say she did escort this guy out the door. If federal enforcement agencies come to your courtroom and you help a guy escape, that is two things. One, it strikes me as maybe something illegal, but it also strikes me as something heroic. And in times of trouble, then people are sometimes called to do civil disobedience. And in my view, when people do civil disobedience, they have to pay the price. That's part of the heroism of it, frankly. And so you can both think that she shouldn't have legally done this, and that morally protecting somebody against, or maybe not even in this case, but in other cases, frankly, a predatory enforcement agency.
Okay, so it's interesting. There's a lot of things to say here. First of all, he says, I don't know all the facts of the case. And yet he has great opinions about the case, right? Which is very typical of these pro-Palestinian protesters. And in general speaking, that's the same thing with liberals, generally speaking. They have no idea about economics, but they have great opinions about it. So
they have a feeling.
Yes, that's important. and feelings are so important these days.
Yeah.
So he says this, and then he says, I don't know the facts of it, but then he has the opinion, like I said, and it's either heroic, but it also could be illegal.
Yeah.
But he is correct when he says, if it's a matter of civil disobedience, then pay the price.
Right.
And I agree with him about that. Now, I think she's wrong about saying that this law is somehow wrong. The idea of enforcing the border, that is wrong is silly to me. Of course you have to enforce a border. It's not like saying, black people should go in the back of the bus like it was in the 60s, in the 50s. But here we are, and he's saying it like it is. But this judge in particular is not saying this. She is instead saying that she did nothing wrong. She's going to defend herself vigorously. No, you need to be prepared for jail time.
Right.
And, get your toothbrush and maybe prepare for that.
Yeah.
I think you should prepare for that vigorously.
Right.
Because your life is going to be different now.
Yeah.
You might be disbarred, but that's the attitude you have to say. This is the problem with the left, is that they feel very expressive and very violent in certain circumstances, tearing down statues, breaking store windows and such, and then say somehow that's a matter of civil disobedience. It's not.
No.
It's just, expressing rage and destroying somebody else's property.
Right.
I'm sorry. You do not manifest your civil disobedience by destroying my personal property.
No.
It has nothing to do with I have nothing to do with your civil disobedience.
Right.
As much as they would like it to be that way. They seem to have lost the message and the mechanisms.
They really have.
Yeah. So her defense has been, it's very odd. Her immediate response was that there was no public safety in issue.
Yeah.
Okay, but that's weird. That is not what the law is about.
Right.
Okay, you can obstruct justice without having anything to do with the immediate public safety.
Right.
Right. So if somebody asks you, do you know where you have any evidence about the whereabouts of this or that murder?
Right.
Okay, and it's not an immediate public safety, but you do know, and you refuse to provide the answer, you will be held and arrested for obstructing justice.
Yeah.
It's that simple.
Right.
Anyway, so the whole thing is about we're arresting judges now. They really think that they have immunity. We talked about that. They don't have immunity.
Yeah.
One thing I want to say is, comparing this to Luigi Mangione, the whole story, right?
Yeah.
What makes her different than Luigi Mangione?
Right.
He broke the law by allegedly murdering the CEO of that insurance company.
Right.
But he was doing it for a reason.
Yeah.
Ostensibly, he didn't like what the insurance companies are doing. So what's the difference?
Yeah.
One is murder. I get that's worse than harboring a fugitive.
Right.
But still, it's a crime.
Yeah.
So anyway, there's no getting out of this. The point is that the left loves enforcing the law when it helps them.
Right.
And they hate it when they don't believe in that law.
Right.
It always has to be a law that they like.
Yeah.
This is not civil disobedience. There's a lot of laws I don't like. I still observe them.
Right.
I want to go 90 miles an hour on the freeway. I do.
Yeah.
I don't like it when it says I can only go 70 miles an hour. I think it's silly these days.
Yeah.
But here we are.
Yeah.
So anyway, one last thing I'll say about this issue, and then we probably should get going. This is from the New York Times, and this is the title.
Yeah.
Trump says that he could free Abrego Garcia from El Salvador, but won't.
Good.
The title makes it seem like that's a bad thing.
No.
No, I think it's a great thing.
Yeah.
Okay, the funny thing is there's something called, in law, there's something called injunctions. You've heard about injunctions. Yeah. But there's two kinds. There's prohibitory injunctions, which basically says you are not allowed to do X, whatever. Classic example that you hear, you cannot be more than 500 yards from the school or whatever it might be.
Right.
Or from this person. You're prohibited from doing that. Then there's mandatory injunctions, which actually require you to take action.
Okay.
You shall build a shack. Okay. You shall have children. You shall teach them X, whatever it might be. Courts are loath to actually issue mandatory injunctions because it smacks of slavery.
Right.
It does. We don't like it.
Yeah.
So the Supreme Court's order saying that President Trump must facilitate the retrieval of this Abrego guy
Yeah.
is, in a sense, a mandatory injunction.
Right.
You will do something.
Yeah.
But they don't specify it, nor can they. But he says, yeah, I can do it, but I'm not going to do it.
Yeah.
Essentially, that's the interpretation of the New York Times. I don't think they're right. But I kind of would like that for Trump, because Trump's our man.
Yeah.
He's awesome. We have one other video I want to share with you. And this is Kyle Becker talks about what's happening with Judge Dugan.
Yeah.
Check this out.
You have the right to get an arrest warrant, and you have the right to get a summons. And that they got a arrest warrant for a judge shows that they wanted to make this a spectacle. Last point I want to make is I presented to a grand jury and indicted a state prosecutor. I indicted a prosecutor. And I got a summons because I didn't want to make a spectacle. They made a spectacle of this case.
Well, they announced it on X as well, and then deleted it, but announced it on X.
Why wouldn't you want to make a spectacle of it? I mean, the fact of the matter is, there are liberal Democrat elected officials, not all judges, some are mayors and others, all over this country who have said repeatedly since Donald Trump became the president that they would like to obstruct his principles and his program when it comes to deporting illegal immigrants. Here you have this person. If these facts are proven true, obviously that's exactly what she was trying to do here. Why wouldn't you want to make...
Let me respond to that.
Why? Because
you asked me a question, let me respond.
Well, let me tell you my view. The spectacle is important because a message has to be sent to everybody else. We're not going to put up... You've been elected by people to...
Yeah, okay. So that's the essence of the point here.
Yeah.
You do want to make this a spectacle.
Right.
And they're all talking about spectacle. These are the people that were more than happy to have a mugshot of Trump.
Yeah.
For the Georgia case, right? That wasn't a spectacle.
Yeah.
You thought that somehow you had to have that mugshot to humiliate him.
Right.
You had to go invade his house in Mar-a-Lago.
Yeah.
With all the cops and a SWAT team, no less. That wasn't a spectacle.
Right.
And now you're complaining that they're making a spectacle out of this.
Yeah.
No, the fact is they knew that this is where that guy was.
Right.
And that's the best place to arrest him. In what other way could they get him?
Right.
So,
do you remember Roger Stone's arrest?
Yes.
Oddly, a CNN reporter was tipped off, so the CNN cameras were right there.
Oh, that's such.
They had frogmen in like wetsuits sitting out like in the river outside, fully armed, for a 70-year-old guy who, if you just give him a summons, he's going to show up.
Well, it's like our friend Simone.
Gold. Dr. Simone Gold.
Well, she talked about being swatted as well. I mean, you see her. She's she's not a threat.
No.
Okay. And they had guns drawn on her. They had the little laser tag on her chest, like she might be shot and killed.
Yeah.
Really, that person? That wasn't a spectacle.
That was absolutely a spectacle. Yeah.
All right, let's talk about the madness of the Democrats, generally speaking. This is from Democrat Governor J.B. Pritzker, talking about how the Republicans should not know a moment of peace. This guy's gone nuts. Check him out. He's from New Jersey, right?
No, he's Illinois, isn't he?
Oh, Illinois, you're right. I'm sorry, I was good. Okay, here we go. Take a listen.
Never before in my life have I called for mass protests, for mobilization, for disruption. But I am now. These Republicans cannot know a moment of peace. They have to understand that we will fight their cruelty with every megaphone and microphone that we have. We must castigate them on the soapbox and then punish them at the ballot box. They must feel in their bones that when we survive this shameful episode of American history with our democracy intact, because we have no alternative but to do just that, that we will relegate their portraits to the museum halls reserved for tyrants and traitors.
All right. That is obviously a very shocking statement. This is from a governor of Illinois.
Yeah.
Clearly looking to incite people.
Yeah.
It's very dangerous. This is beyond what Maxine Waters said.
Yeah.
But he's actually, and people, of course, are clapping. It's not hard to find people who would applaud like that for some crazy concepts like he's presenting. But that's what we're dealing with.
Yeah.
And this is no longer civil disobedience.
No.
This is calling for an uprising.
Right.
And and they get worried about January 6th. What do you think this is going to be all about? What do you think is going to happen?
Yeah.
They're calling for a civil war.
Yeah.
And they want to say, well, this is going to be relegated to the names of history or whatever he said. That's how far they've gone.
Yeah. Or remember when Palin did a map of the districts that we need to target, and Little had targets on the district, and they're like, oh my God, she is threatening to kill the people.
Well, that's a very different situation.
Yeah, or this one's so much less.
It's very different.
Yeah.
That's because Sarah Palin was Republican.
Yeah, 100%.
Then it's okay.
Yeah.
You got to get with the program. I mean, this is so obvious. Sometimes you got to teach Devin these things.
Did you not go to school? Or
yeah. When did you not learn this from basic civics courses? Republicans bad, Democrats good.
Yeah.
But they really believe this.
Yeah.
Pritzker, and he's a leader of his state and presumably a talking head of the Democrat Party, and he really believes this.
Yeah.
It's scary. It's unacceptable.
No. Yeah.
So I hope that the FBI does something about this, because you don't get immunity
No.
for calling out for violence.
No.
And to me, I heard violence in there.
Oh, yeah.
That's dangerous stuff.
Yeah.
If he gets arrested, and maybe he should, then there'll be all sorts of claims that this is the beginning of fascism. We told you so. He might be trying to gun for that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I'm down with that spectacle. I'd like to see that spectacle.
That's a spectacle
Yeah.
that we'd like to see. Oh, I like that. Well, that's a great way to wrap it up.
Yeah.
Folks, look, this country is going really in the right direction. I think the rest of the country feels that way. The tariff situation is all going to be great in the end. It's already doing very well. We are protecting the border. The economy is getting better. Everyone's seeing the Democrats for what they are and what they have been, and that they're imploding. And this is their last resort, is to call for violence. Nobody buys it. I don't buy it. You don't buy it. There are great things in store for America. And that's because we do really live in the greatest country on earth. It is a God-fearing country. It's a country which knows that God animates this country and always shall. In the meantime, this is Barak Lurie signing off, saying God bless, be strong, and we'll talk with you next week.